Okay. So this is chapter 6. This chapter 6 specifically talk about how you can test and debug any application that you write in Java. Testing and debugging is to find some errors in the code, and the errors could be of various types that we will cover in this specific chapter. There are mostly syntax error, compile time error, runtime error, and logical errors. Debugging, Java does have a debugger which allow you to identify if there is a logical error in your code. And both NetBeans and Eclipse, whether you are using NetBeans specifically for this class, since we are using Eclipse, in Eclipse you can set up certain breakpoints that would allow you to inspect certain variables and even inspect if there is some changes that are being done in a specific variable, how you can update the value and other kinds of things that Java allow you to do it. So, for instance, this is a specific future value application with a kind of a logical error. Here, it's just it first prints welcome to the future value calculator. It allows you to enter certain values, which is 100, then which is the monthly investment, then interest rate is 3, number of years is 3, and then the results that it produces is it gives a formatted output in a way that all these values and the text is written in a formatted manner which is given over here, and then you continuously continue if you want to take input from the user again and again. So there are three phases that you can check whether the application that you are building could could produce some kind of errors into that. And these three phases are syntax error, runtime error, and logic error. So syntax error happens when you do not follow a proper syntax, which is you do not allow proper semantics which are given. So, for instance, if I say, if I have to say hello, how are you, and I say how you fine, something like that, which means that it has some syntax there, it's not semantically making sense. So syntax error uh, um, is something which is related to how you have written the code. Runtime error is happens when you run the code. There is no syntax error when you do not, like for instance, you have not included semicolon or you have not included round brackets or curly brackets. Runtime error happens when you do not violate the syntax error, but there could be exceptions. So for instance, when you are dividing two numbers, 5 divide by let's suppose 5, which will be 1, but versus if you give 5 divide by 0, it's an infinity value. Generally the Java do not handle these kind of exceptions which happen, which is a kind of a runtime error that happens. And then there is a logical error where it is not due to syntax or it is not due to runtime error, but it just produces wrong results. So, for instance, you want to add two numbers, 10 plus 20, and it produces 40 rather than producing 30. So, it's a kind of a logical error that you might have written in the code that would give you an error. So, there are three phases of these errors that can happen, which is syntax, runtime, and logical error. I want each one of you to look at this specific code and tell me where do you think the error could be. There are multiple errors in this code, but I want you to first see the code and let me know where do you see that there could be some error. It could be syntax error, logical error, or your runtime error.
I think there's an error in the if statement. I don't think both statements can be true if there's an and in there.
Yeah, so there is an error in this if condition. If you see, there is no round bracket over here.
Is there, what about the while true? Is that okay or no?
While true should be fine.
Hmm.
What about
There's
this?
there's no variable type specified for value.
Yes, there is one error over here, which is there is no specific variable being defined for this variable that you have created, value, which should be a double value, double value. What else? There's one error over here, one over here. Where else do you see? Is there any error on this line? So in total, there are four kinds of error that is happening. Error number one that you have identified is this value equals to 0.0. There is no data type declared. The second one, which one of you had identified, is this specific if there is no closing parenthesis. There is one more error over here, return value. There is no semicolon. So that is error number three. And one more error, get double is a method that you have created, which is GETDUBLE, where G is lowercase. So in this specific line, there is another error that G should be lowercase, which is taking input from the user. So get double has improper capitalization. So these are the syntax error that has happened in this specific code base. Common syntax errors include misspellings, forgetting to declare a data type for a variable, forgetting an opening and closing parenthesis, which in our previous example was this round bracket. We had not included a round bracket after if condition, forgetting to code a semicolon at the end of statement, which is required, and forgetting an opening or closing quotation mark whenever you are including quotes, system.out.println, and then you have just included opening one and not closing one. There are also syntax error that can happen due to misspelling or incorrectly capitalizing a variable name. So for instance, in this specific code, there could be, you have created SC, which is lowercase, and when you are using this SC, you can have S capital and C lowercase. So this could be another error that can happen, which is misspelling or incorrectly capitalizing. And then there is one more error. Sometimes people do use some reserved keywords, for instance, break and continue. These are some reserved keywords in Java, and people use these keywords and initialize certain variables, and that time also you can get an error. There are problems with values also that can happen, not checking that if the value which you have initialized is different than what the person is entering. So let's suppose you are asking the user to enter integer, and instead of adding integer, it adds a string value. So that's a kind of an error that can happen with a value. Sometimes using an equal sign instead of using double equals to sign when you are comparing is another kind of an error. Uh, Another kind of error that can happen is using equals or equals ignore case. And in equals ignore case, it doesn't consider the cases, which is capital case or lower case, but it will ignore. So, for instance, if you have created SC versus uh, lowercase sc, it will be checking, it will ignore the cases and it will just consider SC for both the cases. But for instance, if you are using equals, then in that case, it will give you a false if you are comparing SC, capital SC versus a lowercase sc. So that is another problem which can happen. There could be a problem with floating point numbers when you are uh, creating certain variables and when you are adding certain variables. So for instance, in this case, when you are initializing double D equals to zero point 0.2 plus 0.7, it like just by adding it, it should be 0.9, but Java do because it considers the numbers in the form of um, bit values, and that is the reason it will give you an output which is 0.899, which is approximately equal to zero point 0.9, but Java does produce this kind of an output. To prevent errors like this, it's always better to round the values using a round function to get the final output. But sometimes it does give you an arithmetic error. So for instance, if you will write double D equals to zero point 0.2 plus zero point 0.7, and if you will compare it with zero point 0.9, it will return a false value because D would be computed as 0.89 versus the actual value is 0.9 in this case. So there is a problem with the floating point numbers, which can lead to arithmetic errors, which is also a kind of a not a logical error, not a runtime error, not a syntax error, but a kind of an arithmetic error which happens. Here, there is a code that can trace the overall execution. One way to debug your code is to always print the output of certain variables. So you will know that where exactly you have made an error. So in this specific code, you are printing the output of its first print starting calculate future value method. Then it prints the value of monthly investment, whatever is the monthly investment you have entered as an input, the monthly interest rate, and the month's value. And then inside this for loop, you are updating future value, which initially is 0 0.0. And then you do some kind of mathematical formulation to produce an output. And inside the for loop, you are just printing future value to keep a track of how exactly the future value is getting updated. So the one specific way is which most programmers do is to just use system.out.println to trace the execution of your entire code. But sometimes rather than print sometimes it's you cannot get certain values output. So in that case, you use a debugger. And both NetBeans and Eclipse have a debugger tool which is available in Eclipse that you can use. So I have written this specific code which I will be running, and this is the example of that code. So let me just first um, okay. This was one of the code that you have written last time, Old McDonald's. For instance, in this specific code, you want to debug if there is any kind of an error in this code. What you will do is you can assign breakpoints. Breakpoints allow you to compile the code until that breakpoint is reached. So what it means is that right now, if I'll run this specific code, so let me run this code. So this is the one. Okay, I will open Eclipse once again. So this was the example that you had written, Old McDonald's last time. And if I'll run this specific code, currently it should print right now. It's not a complete code. It just print Old McDonald's had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And once again, Old McDonald's had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. So if I'll run this specific code, it produces this specific output. Let's suppose I want to debug if there is any kind of an error in this specific code. The way you usually debug in Java Eclipse is you can assign certain breakpoints. So the way the breakpoints are assigned is, let's suppose breakpoint is a specific technique in any kind of programming language to let the compiler compile till the breakpoint is reached. So what it does is, rather than running the entire code, it will run till wherever you have assigned a specific breakpoint, just like a normal execution. So let's suppose you have your normal code, and if you run that specific code, it will, and you are taking input from the users, which is A and B. Let's suppose there is two variables that you have created, A and B, and you are taking input from the user, and then you are um, adding A plus B, and finally you are printing the C output. So you can assign breakpoints. So let's suppose I want to assign a breakpoint at over here. So it will run till only step number over here. So there are three steps which are happening. Step number one, you are taking input from the user. Step number two, you are adding these two numbers. Step number three is you are printing the C value, which is the sum value. So if I assign a breakpoint over here, what it will do is it will run till you get an till step number one, and it will wait till the time you go to the next step. So I'll try to run this specific code, and so that you will understand what exactly I'm talking about. So let's suppose I assign a breakpoint at line number 6. So if you see on my computer, currently I have these line numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Let us suppose I want to create a breakpoint at line number 6. What I will do is I will double click line number 6, just double click. And instead of running as an currently what you do in your code is you click on this green button and it will run. But rather than using this run command, what you can do is you will right click, and over here you will see this debug as. And if you will click on debug as, and there is an option called one Java application, you will select this, and you will see over here I should be able to see this debug mode rather than this project explorer. And under Windows, I can open perspective, other, let's suppose debug, and open. Exactly. Let's see. Over here, it should be able to give me the output. Okay, wait a second. Let me first see my project explorer. Somehow this is messed up currently. This is one code. Okay, this is the debugging mode. And I'll click over here. Okay, now it is showing me this mode. And let me also see the debugger mode, where exactly it is. So here under Windows, I will see show and debug shell. Okay, this is debug shell, Windows, show view, and I will see debug. And here is that. Okay, so this is my old McDonald's, and I will right click debug as Java application. It runs. And there are some commands over here. If you will see, there is this resume, there is this terminate, there is step into, step over. So what I'll do is I will click on step into. So this specific command arrow with the downward arrow. So if I'll click on this, you will see the way here I see my output. As I mentioned, breakpoint allows you to run the code till you reach to that specific line. So here in this code, since I have assigned a breakpoint till line number 6, it prints only one time old McDonald's had a farm and then EIEIO. Versus if I'll click on step over now, it will go to the next step. So let me select this specific one, and you will see that now it only prints old McDonald's had a farm because now it has reached to this specific line and it is now at line number 11. And if I'll again do step over, you will see that it goes through line 11 and now it is at line 13, and it just gives me the output, which is old McDonald's had a farm EIEIO and old McDonald's had a farm EIEIO. So what happens in this specific code is you have created a breakpoint at line number 6, which means the compiler will compile till it reaches line number 6, and then if you will select step over, then it will go to the next line. Once again, step over, then it will go to the next line, and it will be able, you would be able to test if there is any kind of an error in your code. So there is this particular functionality which is available in Java for you to understand or identify if there is any kind of an error. So I'll stop this and let me show you one more example. So this is the debugger example which I was showing in your slide. I will come to my project explorer. This is my Java. One second. This is Java. This is debugger. Open. Okay, now let me see. I will assign a breakpoint at line number 5 in this case. At line number 5, I will double click so that the compiler will run till you are currently, the way this particular program is that it has a main method which is calling calculate future value, which is taking three inputs in the method, which is monthly investment, interest rate, and years. So monthly investment is 100.0. The reason I have initialized 100.0, it's because it's a double value. Interest rate is 5% and interest year is 2. It will run till it will initialize these three values. So what I'll do is, since I have created a breakpoint, I will right click and I will select debug as and then Java application. So here you will see there should be a perspective. I don't know where exactly it has gone. I will show perspective and then debug. Somehow I shouldn't have closed it, but let's see if I can see. Okay. I will try to run this again. So click on run, debug as Java application. Okay, I think now I should be able to run this. Okay, debug example. And let's see step into. So I will click on step into. Okay, I don't know where it has gone. One second. display selected console debug shell. Let me see if I can see. Okay. Okay, so here in this code, what I can see over here is as soon as I click on step into, I am able to see how exactly the values are getting updated month by month. In your previous code example, what we were doing is we were taking input from not taking input, but uh, we have passed certain value to monthly investment, interest rate, and integer years, and then we are printing what exactly are the values, and then we are updating the values. So here, using this debug tool, what I am able to see is how exactly the values are getting updated step by step. So since it is running from 1 till months, which is years time 12, which is since the years that you have added is 2 times 12, which is 24. So it should give me 24 values on how exactly the future value is getting updated. And using this debugger tool, we can actually see how exactly the values are getting updated. Somehow my uh, one of the window that I wanted to see is not opening. So let me see if there is something that I can do to see that specific. It's not running. Okay. Something is not right in Eclipse. That is the reason I'm not able to see that window. Let me try to work on it. I think you should be able to, when you will be running, you should be able to see that side window that I'm not able to see. But let me try to debug and see if it works or not. But as I mentioned, debugger allows you to check if there is any kind of a logical error in your code. Let me go on certain other aspects which are important for you to understand on how exactly methods can be written, and then how you can debug if there is some kind of an error in your method. So let me open certain slides. So let's suppose over here, this is one of the specific method that you have created, public static void my method, and it just print my function called. In the previous class, we did discuss in a single class can have multiple functions. So main is one specific function, my function is another function. What you do is as soon as you call my function, which in this example is just by writing my function, it will go to private static void my function. And as soon as it does all the steps which are written inside my function, it will come back to the next specific line. So that is how a method functionality generally happens. In this specific code, what you are doing is first you will get about to encounter a method, then you are calling my method, then it will printing from my inside method. As soon as this is done, it will come back over here and it will print method was executed successfully. In this specific example, this is another method calling where you have created an object of this specific class, which is output class. In the previous example, and so in the all the examples that we have covered, I have written just single class and which can have multiple method. But what you can do is you can create another class which can have some other method, which is my method. And in your main class, you can create an object for that specific class. I believe I did draw certain diagrams that a single class can have multiple methods, but there could be multiple classes, and multiple classes can have multiple other methods. So the way it generally works is that your main method or your main class can have some method. The main method is one of the method. There could be another method, which is M1, There could be another method which is M2, and you can create another class. Let's suppose I create class 2, which is a new class, and I can have method M3 over here and M4. And what I can do is I can, in my main class, use this specific method. So the way I can do is I have to create an object for this class 2 and then call that specific method using that specific object. So here in this example, this specific code, what it does is, since you have created another class, which is output class, I have created an object called obj. Then I have used new output, which is allocating the memory for this output class. And then I'm calling a method, which in this case is my method, using that object using obj dot my method. And it will then printing from inside my method, and it will come back and it will print method was executed successfully. I did cover in the last class as well that, for instance, if you want to return a specific value, when you have to return a specific value, rather than using public static void, you will be using the return type. So here in this example, there is this is a private, but I'm not covering public, private, and other particular concept, because private would be considered as little bit difference in the way that you have written all the program. But here in this example, public static int. Int is written as the return type, since the return type is 10 times 10, which is 100, which would be returned as soon as you have called that method, which is square method. And this output would be returned in this result variable if you have created a result variable. So generally, you return that specific value if you want to use that specific value in your main method. So I did cover that specific example as well. Here in this example, once again, this is passing a specific value which you have initialized in your main method. So here in your main method, you have created an integer n value, which is equal to 3, and you are passing that 3 as an input to square method, and that square method will pass this 3 value to where exactly you have written public static int square, which is 3. Then it will return 3 times 3, which is 9. That 9 would be returned back over here, which is result, and your result value would be 9. So you can pass different variables as well, is instead of not passing any variable. So here in this, we were not passing any variable, but in this example, we are passing one variable which is getting updated, and then you are returning that specific value using this int return type, and that would be cached in the result output. This was another thing that we covered. Let me cover one more specific example, which is method overloading. So far, we had just written methods. In this example that I'm showing you, we will cover method overloading as well. So let me create new project, and this is November 4th. Let me just create a new class in this one. And this examples that I'm covering today is method overloading. So method overloading is a concept that you can create same name method multiple times, only differentiated on the basis of the arguments that you are passing. So here, let me create two methods of the same name, but they are different in the way of you are passing certain values. So I will create first method as public static void display, and inside this I will pass integer a value. I will now create the same method name, which is public static void display, but rather than passing int a, I will pass two variables, int a and int b, and you will see the error is gone. So this specific concept where you can write same name methods, but differentiated on the parameter values is termed as method overloading. So this particular concept is termed as method overloading. It's the same name function display. The only difference is in one, you are passing integer a, and in another one, you are passing int a and int b. And in both of these, I'm just printing the output, which is a value in this case. And in the other one, I'm printing both a and b. The way I would be returning or getting the output would be, sorry, this should be a plus, and then the way I would be calling would be differentiated on the basis of the arguments that I'm passing. So in one example, I'll just pass one value, which is 1. And another one, I'll pass two values, which is 1 and 2. So this is method 1 being called, and this one is method 2 being called. If I'll run this, it should run completely fine, and I should get both 1 and 2 output. So this particular concept where you have same name method but differentiated on the basis of the number of argument is termed as method overloading. But you must be wondering, what about if I change this int a and b to string a and b? Would that still work or not? And whether this particular thing is also termed as method overloading? Yes. So method overloading is the term where same name function can be created, but they are differentiated on the basis of the type of argument and the number of argument. In the previous example that I was covering was number of parameters. In this one, it's a type of parameter. So here it is int a. In the second one, I'm passing as string a. So the only difference is that rather than passing as integer value, I can pass some value, which is my name itself. So this is also method overloading, the same name function, but it is differentiated on the basis of the type of argument. And the type of argument over here is int exam. One is taking an integer value, and in the other one, it is taking a different value, which is a string value. There is another thing that is current people do use is that where exactly do you think this method overloading would be useful? Can anyone tell me why exactly you would use the same name function? Where exactly do you think this particular concept of same name function would be helpful?
Like if you're getting the user to input something, but you don't know exactly what they're going to input.
Yes, yes, very good. So the way this method overloading is helpful is that sometimes when you are taking input from the user, a user can enter an integer value versus they can enter a string value versus they can enter a double value. But let us suppose you have created a function which is just taking the value which is an integer value. So if the user enter a double value, it will give you an error and you should not be able to run it. So this method overloading, this specific concept is used when you are taking input from the user and you do not know what the user can enter. He or she can enter an integer value, he or she can enter a string value, and so on. And that is the reason people do prefer to have same name function, but they pass different arguments in it so that it can process certain value. So here I can also say int b, and this in the second one I can say int b. This is also fine. This particular concept is also method overloading. It is differentiated on the basis of the type of argument. In one, you are passing int a, and in the other one, you are passing string b, but the number of argument is same. In both of them, it is taking two arguments. So this is also termed as method overloading. Method overloading, I'll repeat, is the term which is utilized or which is used when it is same name function differentiated on the basis of number of arguments or type of arguments. It's not and, it is or. It could be the number, which could be different, or it could be the type of argument. So in the first one, it is the number, and in the second one is it's a type, both number and type. So you can create same name functions as well in Java. Besides this, there is another thing that I would like to cover is um, math function. But before that, before I run this, I want you to tell me what exactly would be the output of this specific code. Any guesses? What would be the output?
I think it's going to print 16 stars.
16 stars, but how in the same line or different line? Anyone else? Would it be in the same line or different line? All these stars. Anyone else? Any guesses? Anyone?
Each set of stars should be on a different line.
Or like, and each line will have how many stars?
Like each line would have 4 stars.
4 stars? Yes. So if I'll run this, let's see, it is 4 stars in the line, and total it is 16 stars which are printing. The very first time it is 4 because it goes inside the for loop and it prints 4 stars, and in this next time it prints it comes out of the loop and then it prints the next 4 stars, and it runs through the entire for loop. Then it updates the I value once again, and once again it will go inside. This time I value is 3. Then it will run inside this for loop where j would be incremented, so 4 times the star value. Then once again it will come outside the loop, and the reason we are seeing in every iteration, it is once the for loop inside is executed, it uses system.out.println. That is the reason it comes to the next line. So what about if I want to print a pattern like this? Uh, in the first line, 1 star. In the second line, 2 stars. In the third line, 3 stars. And in the fourth line, it is 4 stars. I want each one of you to write that code to basically tell me if you can get this specific pattern using nested for loop, which is this kind of loop. That way I will also give attendance. I would be able to see if your code is actually working or not. So please start writing the code in a way that it should be able to produce this kind of an output. Meanwhile, I'll see where exactly is that debugger window. And let me know when you are done printing that particular pattern. And if you're done, just share your output um, as a private message of your code. Okay, finally, I am able to see this specific window. So, just a quick thing. In case if you are struggling with that debugger window, I did figure it out, like what exactly was the issue. So, what you're supposed to do is come on window and then select perspective and select reset perspective, and that would allow you to have this specific kind of window. So, let me run this specific code once again so that you know what exactly I was referring to when I was saying how to debug your code, how you can update certain values. So once again, if you are facing issue in not getting this right hand side of your window, which I was struggling, come on Windows, come on Perspective, and then select Reset Perspective, and you should be able to see something like this on the side of your window. If you don't, then just close your Eclipse and rerun your specific code. So what I'll do is, as I mentioned, if you want to debug your code, the way you have to do is, first of all, create a breakpoint. I will create a breakpoint at line number 5. So I'll double click it. And as soon as I will double click it, you should be able to see something like this cockroach or some kind of an insect. I believe it's a cockroach. Yeah, it's a roach. So you will, what you are supposed to do is then right click and then select this debug as and then Java application. And as soon as you will do it, you should see a debugger window on your left hand side. On your right hand side, you should be able to see something like this window. And on your bottom, you should be able to see your console what you want to see how exactly the values are updated. So what I'll do is is I will first do this step into so that it will compile the code till it reaches line number 5. So I'll select this and you will see now how exactly the values of monthly investment, interest rate, and years are. So you will see monthly investment is 100, interest rate is 5, and years is 2. Now I will select step over so that it will go to the next line. So I'll select step over. So it comes on line number 10. I'll once again do step over. Step over. It goes to next line number 11 and it will initialize monthly interest rate, which is another kind of a variable with interest rate divided by 100. So interest rate is 5 divided by 100. So I'll once again select step over and you will see I create, there is another variable which has been initialized, which is 0.05, which is 5 divide by 100. Line number 12, you are creating int months equals to year times 12. So there would be another variable which is created. So I'll select step over. You will see months is created, which is 2 times 24. So you can see on runtime how exactly the values are updating. So this debugger tools allow you to debug if you are facing some kind of an error in your code. Very similar to the example that you are currently doing, where you have to print star in the first line, then 2 stars in the next line, 3 stars in the next line, 4 stars in the next line. You can actually see how exactly your values are getting, it is printing, and where exactly is the error in your code. So now I'll select once again step over. So it goes to line 14, which is doing currently nothing. Next step over again. It comes to line number 15, which prints monthly in interest rate, which is monthly investment in the previous example, which is your 100, and then monthly interest rate, which will be printed as 0.05. And you will see 0.05 is printed. Next, another variable future value is created. So you will see on my right hand side another variable which is future value, which is created. So you will see future value 0.0. Next time it is printing, your future value is getting updated and you will see how exactly the value is updating. So future value plus monthly investment times 1 plus monthly interest rate. So this calculation would be done and you will see how exactly from 0.0 it will change the new value. So you will see the value is now updated to 105. Then you are printing both month and future value. Once again, step over. It will print your output over here, which is the current month and the future value. Current month is month 1, future value is 105. Once again, I value would be updated. So previously I value was 1. Now it would be I plus plus, and you will see that I value on your right hand side is incremented. So you will see I is equals to 2. Then once again, it will update future value. So once again, step over and it will update the future value to its updated value, which is 215.25. Once again, you will print these value system.out.println step over. So month 2 future value is 215.25. So you can actually see on runtime basis how exactly your values are getting updated by keeping track on how exactly the variables are getting updated. Once again, if you face issue in not seeing the right hand side window, go to window, go to perspective and select reset perspective. So you should be able to see this window. That's why I was having an issue. I was not able to see. I closed out all of these and then I was running. So let me stop it and run it again. And let's see, I have this debugger. I'll select debug as and Java application. See, I was not able to see this right hand side. So if you face similar kind of an issue, click on window, perspective and reset perspective. And your right hand side, this kind of window will pop up. Okay, before I end the class, I also wanted to give one more specific example for you to write a specific method. Let me reshare my screen and let's see. Okay, so in mostly this is how the program would be written. For instance, if you wanted to print star in a specific sequence, which is first line the first star, the second one 2 stars, the third time 3 stars, and the fourth time it is 4 stars. So the way it works is that you are keeping track of two variables over here. One is I and one is j value. So there is an I counter and there is an j counter. So the very first time I value is 1 and it will go inside the loop, which is line number 5, and it will print the value of j, which is equal to 1. So I value and j value is 1. Let me just create a breakpoint at line number 6 and you will see how exactly the values are getting updated. So let me this is where the debugger tool is there. The breakpoint has been done. Or let me just do at line number 6. I will right click and I will select debug as, click on OK. And here is my start print value. And I will go step into, oh, sorry, it is debugging this one. So let me terminate and disconnect all. I'll also terminate and remove this one, also terminate and remove, and I'll go to star print. And this is line number 6. Right click, debug as my Java application. So there are 3 variables, which is I value is 2 and j value is 1. So the reason it does go till line number 6 and it is I value is getting updated number 2 is because it will go through the first iteration and the second iteration, the j value is 1. And now you will see how exactly the values are getting updated. Just keep a track of this 2 and 1, which is continuously getting updated. So I will click on step over. It is at line number 5. You will see I value is 2. Your j value, I is 4. Now I value gets updated to 3. It will go inside the loop. J value is 1. Because the reason it is doing is because you are running the loop with the j condition, which is less than equal to 5. Not 5, less than I value. And I value, whatever you have updated, it would be updated. So let me rerun it again. So let me stop it and terminate and remove. Let me set a breakpoint at line number 6 again. Select debug as Java application. These are the 3 variables which are getting updated. The very first time I is 1, it will check I, which is 1, is less than equal to 5. Yes. J is equals to 1. And it will check whether J is less than I. 1 is less than I, which is not true. So it will go above and I value would be updated, which is 2. Once again, J would be updated. J is equals to 1. And that is the reason I am seeing this specific output. I value is 2 and j value is equals to 1. Now what I'll do is I'll do step over, step into or step into will update the specific value. So here it will be printing, but let me just go on step over. Sorry, step return. And here, let me do step over. So I will see how exactly the values are updating. Currently, since I'm at line number 5 and this second condition is true, so the output, this is my output console. First star value is printed because 1, j is 1 is less than 2. So line number 6, it will print that specific output. So currently I'm at this specific line. Now let me do step over. So it will go to the next line. So let's do step over. This time it goes to line number 8 and it will be just going to the next line. So that is the reason there is no update which is going on. Once again, I'll do step over. This time I value would be updated to 3. And you will see how exactly I from 2 changes to 3. So I'll once again do step over and you will see I is equals to 3. Now over here, it will go inside line number 5 and you will update the value of j which is equals to 1. 1 is less than 3, true. So print the first star value. So that would be printed. So and once again, j value would be updated. So once again, I'll do step over and you will say j is equals to 1. Now it will print the first star. Now once again, a j value would be updated. So j will become 2. And then it will check 2 is less than 3, which is true. So line number 6, again, new star would be printed. So step over and another star is printed. J value becomes 2. So you will see the similar kind of thing, which I am doing on my rough hand by updating the value. You can use this debugger tool on how exactly the values are updated. So you can debug your code if, for instance, you are not getting a specific pattern. So far, the code looks fine. The way this particular code has been written is doing what we are supposed to do. But let us suppose if you make some kind of an error, you can do the step-by-step iteration to know where exactly you have made a mistake. So debugging is a perfect example on how you can, if you find any errors in your code, how you can get rid of those errors by slowly and gradually looking at the code and see where exactly you have messed up in the code. So once again, the next iteration, if I'll do step over, it will go to line number 8 and it will just go to the next line. So no I value is 3. Next time I value would get updated to 4. So this time this becomes 4 and now my j value according to line number 5 would become 1. So once again step over and it will be just j value would be equal to 1. And then once again the very first statement, line number 6, it will just print the first star. So I will go step over. First star is printed. J value would be updated. So you will see on my right hand side, J value should be updated to 2, which is updated to 2. Line number 6, print the next star. So next star is printed. Once again, step over. J value is updated 3. Step over, 3 star is printed, then so on. So you should be able to see where exactly you have made an error by using this debugger tool. If you are using Eclipse, you should be able to run it. So what I want you to do is, once I end this class, write a specific code on printing this specific pattern. So you should be printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next time 2, 3, 4, 5. Next time 3, 4, 5. Next time 4, 5. And last time 5. So I want you to print this specific pattern on your output screen and use debugger tool in case if you face an error. This is at home assignment, not in class. So this is at home assignment to print this kind of a pattern on your output screen. And we will go from there once we meet the next class. So I'll stop sharing again in case if you have any questions or anything, I should be able to answer. If you have no question, then we'll meet on Wednesday. Feel free to unjoin the class if you have finished giving both the star and the rectangle one. So Yonso, you are good.
Hi. I'm still trying to work on the star one. I think that's the only one that I'm getting a problem with. Do I use the star from the 8 from above? Or I know you taught us a different way from it, but I'm having troubles on it.
Did share the example currently. Did you see the example that I was showing?